Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to BizTalk 79. My name is Wally Rada. I'm your host for this session. Thank you for joining me. Tonight, we're talking about financial planning and small business. It's great to see you all here. I see some faces that I know. Hello, Marie. Hello, Glissa. Hello, Alina. Hello, Hermina. Hi, Bikram. It's good to see you again. Hello, Vanessa. All right, guys, welcome to today's session. Today we're talking Maricel. Hello, Maricel. Hello, Marites. Hello, Doreen. Okay, I'm seeing more regular faces. Hello, Dereje. Okay, good to see you all, and thank you for joining me today for a very exciting session, which I'm sure you all really need, because I'm sure you all lack knowledge as far as financial planning for business is concerned. And financial planning for business is a critical element of running a business, because without financial planning, the next step is bankruptcy. Okay, and you don't want that to happen to anyone. That means you invest your hard-earned savings starting a business, and within 3 to 6 months, you go bankrupt. You go into financial insolvency. So today we're going to learn what is required for financial planning, and we're going to go through the very basic stages of what financial planning is. In the future, we will go into more complex elements of financial planning, but today we'll keep it very simple. Okay, so let me start by showing my presentation. Financial planning for small business. What is financial planning and why is it important in the age or the era of small business? Why do we need it? But before we understand why we need it, we need to look at what is it? What is a small business to start with? Ladies and gentlemen, your little bakery down the street is a small business. The business you run online through e-commerce is a small business. The little grocery store or the supermarket that's owned by a family that runs it and not by a multinational company with 200 or 300 branches around the country is a small business. What defines a small business? Basically, its number of employees and how much it generates in the first year of operation. It's a small business. Okay, so let's talk about it. Definition of a small business. Small business is typically defined as a privately owned corporation, a partnership, or a small proprietorship, a sole proprietorship that has fewer employees and less annual revenue than a corporation or regular sized business. The definition of small in terms of being able to apply for government support and qualify for preferential tax policies varies country by country. In Singapore, if you have earned less than 100 million and you have less than, say, 200 employees, then you would be classified most probably as a small business. In Australia, the rules are a bit different. Every country determines a small business for the purpose of government in a different way and a different measurement based on their economy and the way the business scope is built in their country. For instance, small businesses tend to have fewer people working for them and less upfront capital to dedicate to quality initiatives. They're usually owned by people who are starting a business for a first time. All right, the owners of the business or the management of the business usually put in a great amount of effort, and they're usually part of that business in order to make it steer and become profitable. Let's look at a small business. Let's look at the elements of a small business. For a small business to function, first, they need to have a sellable solution. They need to have a product or a service that they want to sell. Without this, there is no business to run. All right. So without a sellable product or a sellable solution, they don't have anything to actually sell. They need a venue. They need a venue, whether they sell it online or they sell it at a local shop or they sell it by mail order. They need to have a venue or a distribution outlet for them to sell their product. They need to have selling proposition or a target. Who is their target? Who is their audience? Who are their customers? Is it individual customers, business to customer, or is it business to other business? They could actually run online and offline together. They could have shops, brick and mortar shops, and they could also have a digital business. So if we look at a local shop, that would be offline. And if we look at an online business, that would be the digital business. And in order for all of this to come together, they have to have a product or a service that people want. They need to have a product or a service that people want. So if we go back and look at the bakery needs to have fresh bread every day that people want to buy. Otherwise, no one will come to that small business and help that business generate revenue. Does everybody understand what I've said so far? Yes or no? Do you all understand what I've said so far? Can you give me the hands up, please? Okay, great. Excellent, excellent. So small businesses all over the world today have taken a different formation to what they would have taken prior to the COVID-19 epidemic. COVID-19 destroyed the way the world ran business previously. You know, the common way of running business was to rent shop space and open a brick and mortar store. But thank you to COVID-19, the worst epidemic in the history of the human race to date, the business picture or the business tunnel has changed. People now will endeavor to not even have a physical location and do as much as they can to run their business online in the cloud. Is it the right decision? For some businesses, definitely, because they can reduce their costs and increase their revenue, and that would put more value into the business. But for some businesses, having online without a brick and mortar presence can also affect business performance. So all of this is part of developing the right business strategy and identifying who your customers are and what the best channel would be, an online channel, a physical channel, or both. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so we all understand this. Let's move on. So stages of small business growth. Now, you know, small businesses start where somebody has $20,000 and she says to herself, or he says to himself, I'm going to go back to my country and open a food store. I'm going to sell fried rice and noodles on the street of Bangkok or on the street of Manila. I'm going to start my own business. Now, he might start by having a street stall and paying rent for that store, or she might start by renting a shop, depending on what sort of capital they have to start the business. Small businesses vary widely in size and capacity, depending on how much the entrepreneur or the person that's founding the business, who's establishing the business, has in revenue to get the business started. So each small business starts with a different structure, a different number of people, and a different financial standing at its starting point. But generally, they experience common problems arising at similar stages in their development. What stages do they come up at? Well, the points of similarity can be organized into a framework. And this framework that we're going to talk about increases the understanding and the nature of characteristics and problems that small businesses faced. And this can be used for any business, whether you own a hairdressing salon, whether you own a fried rice stall, whether you sell products or services online. Example, from a corner dry cleaning establishment with 2 or 3 minimum wage employees to a $20 million a year computer software company experiencing a 40% annual rate of growth, you would still be able to use what I'm about to teach you. Understanding the stages of small business growth and understanding the different stages is very important, just like understanding when a baby is born, what stages they go through. Let's take in simple terms, think of owners. Owners will have to spend amounts of time and money during the initial startup period to get space, equipment, product, employ people, and learn to begin delegating the work to the people that work for them so the owner can simply run the business rather than doing the work himself or herself because they're afraid of employing people or trusting people to help them. So let's look at the stages, okay? Everybody focus. Stage number 1 is existence, the existence of the business. So it's young, it's growing, and its growth or amount of growth in stage 1 or how big they are at stage 1 will depend on the amount of creativity that the entrepreneur brings in opening that business. Okay, and usually at stage 1, entrepreneurs are unsure about management versus leadership, and they seem to have difficulty in the first instance. Stage 2 is the business's survival. So how much growth have they achieved between stage 1 and 2? Is the growth strong enough to keep them going? And are they able to answer or stand fast, stand strong to the actual problems that might be brought on by the economy or by environmental changes and customer preferences? Stage 3 is success. And what do we mean by stage 3 success? Is when you can demonstrate that you've achieved a growth of the business based on percentage growth compared to what you had originally planned before you opened in your business plan. And you have also been able to achieve a hierarchy of people where you can delegate duties so the business can run smoothly. And you should also be, by the time you reach stage 2 or 3, you should be able to manage crisis and make quick decisions about what you have to do or what to do in the business. Stage 4 is takeoff. And this is where you start focusing on more growth and more coordination. Again, as you focus on more growth, you should be open to handling more issues and employing more people. Stage 5 is resource maturity, where your growth plan has been achieved as per your initial business plan. For example, your original business plan said to open 10 stores, and you have opened 10 stores. And now you're ready to handle different forms of crisis that may come up as a result of your maturity in reviving your product, rejuvenating your product, or being able to keep up with consumer demand. So the first stage of business growth is what we call the existence stage. The existence stage, ladies and gentlemen, is a stage experienced during your startup. It's a stage you experience during the startup phase. To move from an idea to a business takes customers, cash, and stamina. Customers, cash, and stamina. And amongst all of that, you must have what we call creativity. Business owners are the primary source of the capital usually and energy. And if they have staff, they supervise them directly. Their only goal is to exist and survive at this stage. Formal planning is seldom a part of a small business, especially if you're running a local street food shop or you're running your own business from home. A lot of these small businesses don't know how to do formal planning, and it's seldom part of their process. And that's why many of them fail long term. At this stage, customers is what the company needs, not business cards, a letterhead, or a company car. So when you first start an existence stage, what you need to do is focus all your money on getting customers, not printing business cards, letterheads, and buying expensive company cars. Remember, many businesses fail at this fledgling stage because they have intricate detailed product plans and no clue how to identify them. So when you plan to open a business, you have to keep your product very simple, something that you can deliver based on the budget you have, based on having the right tools and capital. But if you make it so complicated that you find out you can't get the right machines, the right tools, or the right suppliers, what you will do is you'll basically jeopardize your product brand in the market, and you will never go past existence stage. You will fail. The next stage of the business growth process is survival. Survival is very important. If the company makes it through the startup and have proven that they have a product that people can and will buy, then survival becomes their primary concern. And survival is very important. And what do we mean by survival? Being able to generate enough money or make enough profit to cover costs and also be able to finance their growth and expansion. For example, mummy and daddy, mum and pop businesses rarely grow past this stage. Founders often think that the business is an extension of themselves and can't imagine not being at the helm. Owners are satisfied with marginal returns for their efforts and investment and are unable or unwilling to delegate responsibility. For example, your mother, your father, your grandfather, your grandmother, they probably started businesses, but they always made themselves the most important people in that business and probably never trusted having people work for them or letting people suggest or help them improve or develop that business. So virtually at the end, these businesses never go past the survival stage. Never. It's not uncommon for companies to grow broke at this stage. So what some companies do is they get to this stage, but because they're unable to move to the next stage, they find their finances running short and they go out of business. They go into insolvency. The next stage is what we call the success stage. And this is a company is economically healthy. That means the company has a healthy balance sheet, is generating average or better profits, okay? And the company can stay at this stage indefinitely. Remember, they have to be economically healthy. They have to have assets. They must be generating average or better profits from sales, and they must be focused. Financial management and delegation to a growing management team requires the seat of the pants leadership. That means somebody, the owner or the leader, must have a hands-on approach to make sure that the financial plan is adhered to and that the people follow that so that they don't run the company to the ground in its initial stages. Okay, so remember, business owners at this stage must decide if they're going to disengage or go for growth. Now, if they decide to disengage, it means they don't want to grow any further. If they decide to go for growth, entrepreneurs must have ongoing approach. They must be very focused on the business, and they must be able to show that in continually pushing for growth in the business. Takeoff stage, ladies and gentlemen, is if the business owners opt to grow, they have the actual structure to delegate and financing is available or readily available, then you need to make sure that financing does become available. So sometimes businesses build and start delegating, but they are unable to get the financing and fail. So at this stage, you should be at the point where you built a reputation, you have assets, you have a proven track record of revenue, and this is what you need to obtain financing to continue growing. All right, let's go on. And the last stage is what we call the maturity stage. And this is controlling the substantial financial resources. So once you've grown, you've got investors, it's now time for you to actually control that maturity stage to make sure that any growth you roll out is maintained and doesn't fail during the growth process. For example, airplane manufacturer Lockheed understood and created a special in-house design group known as the Skunk Works, which produced the fastest airplane in the world, the SR-71, and the highest flying aircraft in the world, the U-2. All right, so what does this mean? So the company needs to understand during the maturity stage, what is the strongest product? What product will earn them the highest revenue after all costs? Okay, what product should they continue pushing, or what should they do to even introduce more similar products? All of this should be something that they seriously contemplate in the maturity stage. Knowing what challenges a company is likely to face in the years ahead can help the business now, the owner now, mitigate their impact. So in simple terms, Ben Franklin, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Now, remember, I keep telling that in every lesson. If you fail, it's not because you plan to fail. It's because you have your mashed potato heads full of mush and wet sand instead of green broccoli. Remember, I kept telling you about the difference between mush, sand, and green broccoli. So if you fail, it's not because you plan to fail, it's because you failed to plan. Does everybody understand the reverse psychology? Yes or no? So the majority of you don't understand that. And when you fail, you say, I failed because my plans were no good. No, it's because you failed to plan to start with. You didn't have any plan. You didn't have any plan. I think one or two of you here might have proper, or three of you might have proper business plans on paper with budgets and estimates. The rest of you, you decide to work overseas for 10 years, you save up $30,000, you go back to your country and you open a food shop. You go and rent this shop, you buy all this equipment, but because you don't have a business plan that targets how you're going to grow that business or bring in a revenue to pay for the equipment you just bought, that business will fail. Everybody understand that? Yes or no? You know, I've met a lot of students that have called me in the last 2 or 3 weeks and said, "Oh, Mr. Waller, I started my own business." I said, "Tell me about it." He said, "Well, I now buy sneakers. I go and buy used sneakers, Adidas, all of those used sneakers. I advertise locally and I buy used sneakers from people who bought sneakers but don't want them anymore. I clean them and then I sell them. It's a good business." And I said, "But it's not new. You're copying other people." And then I said to him, "How many pairs of sneakers do you have in stock?" He said, "I only have 8 pairs and they're all different sizes." I said, "So why don't you have any more stock?" He says, "Because I don't have the money to buy more stock. The money I made, I already spent. I bought myself new clothes and new watch." So he had not planned. It's not because he failed. It's not because his plan failed. It's because he failed to plan. He had no business plan. He thought by buying 10 pairs and selling them, the money he got from that, instead of investing in another 10 pairs, so he had 18 pairs on offer, he decided to go and buy himself new clothes and a new watch to show off to his friends. All right? It's not because your plan failed. It's because you failed to plan. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Are we sure? Divide, do you understand that? Divyadi, do you understand that? Yes or no, Divyadi? Okay, good. Lindsay, Lindsay Nombrefia, do you understand that, Lindsay? Can you wave your hand to me, young Lindsay? Nice to see you, Lindsay. All right. So does everybody follow what I'm saying? Duong Gwyn, do you understand that, Mr. Duong? Thank you, Mr. Duong. Okay, who else have I got here? Mr. Eshawar, do you understand that, Eshawar? Thank you. Okay, let me go on. Let me look at some of these faces who may be asleep. Donkwer, do you understand that, Donkao? Thank you, Donkao. Ninja, do you understand that, Ninja Zhao? Thank you, sir. Do you understand that, Brai Ra-san? Brai Ra-san? Thank you. Ong, do you understand what I've just explained? And Richard, where are you, Richard Galit? I see your name on my list. Hello, Richard. Nice to see you. Do you understand, Richard? Good, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, to you to learn anything, your camera must be switched on. Because if your camera is not switched on during BizTalk, you are unlikely to get a certificate. Your camera must be switched on from the very beginning to the very end. Okay? So remember, guys, financial planning is very critical, and so is you gaining knowledge and not thinking that you know everything when you're starting a business. So attending BizTalk is where you gain the knowledge to apply it to the business, and that comes and shows how serious you are about running a business. Because if you go into a business and say, I don't need to learn anything, you're being stubborn. That means your head, the potato head, is full of mashed potato and you're headed for failure because none of you have that mindset. Do you understand me, everyone? Yes or no? Wave your hands. Okay, great. Let me go back to my presentation, please. All right, so we've spoken about the maturity stage. We've spoken about the aircraft. Let's go on to the next slide. So stage one existence, which we've spoken about, is basically developing an initial site and launching a soft version of your product or service, or if you're a restaurant, soft launching to a limited number of people who can come in, try the food, give you comments and leave. Instead of running a full lunch service and a full dinner service, you might only open for lunch during your trial stages. You're doing testing marketing, you're getting ideas, and you're making rapid, iterative modifications, which actually you're making in order to improve and keep growing in your stage one of existence. So that means being able to target a certain market, test that market, get constant feedback about what the customers want and why they didn't buy your product, and make iterative changes or improvements straight away to improve. Don't wait. Stage two is your business's survival. Okay, remember, by stage two, you already have a product, a refined product, and you already have existing customers. So now you're ready to start looking for investors, because when you started, it was a one-girl show, one-man show. You didn't even have a proven track record. You had nothing to show for the business. Okay, now when you start going to stage two and you start looking for money or funding, by this point, you should have hired your first 1, 2, or 3 employees. Okay, so remember, at this point, when you go into survival, a lot of startups don't usually plan to monetize at this point, because if you're an online business, the amount of capital you require is lower. So people who want to monetize and people who want to raise funding from investors out there or business startup funds, they are the ones that basically want to run brick and mortar businesses. So remember, startup funding, seed funding is really important, and you should start looking at it by stage two. Stage three success, the product or service has reached a defining milestone. It's already selling and you have customers who keep coming back. Running low on capital by this stage because your product is selling well, you're having to produce more product, buy more raw materials, improve by increasing your sales team to meet customer demand. You may run low on capital and you need to go back to investors for a Series B funding, seed funding, where they inject money into your business. Because if you are a stage three success, that means you already have a market and you can't produce enough product for that market, or you can't employ enough people to do it. You will end up losing those customers and you'll be destined for financial insolvency or bankruptcy. Stage four is takeoff. Now, you've already got second round of funding, okay? And this should usually go to extensive marketing efforts, maybe acquisitions of a smaller business doing the same thing that already has stock, or maybe even start an online business to go with your brick and mortar business. So let me talk about a simple process here. Let me talk about a simple process. Let me talk about one of the students I had. I think he was Vietnamese. And this student, a year ago, came to me and said he's going to start his own business. And he wanted to start his own salon, or whatever he called it. And he said that he knows one friend who's very good to work in his salon. He can pay a very low salary. So he rented a very small shop. He spent about 3,000 US dollars renovating that shop. He bought the best technology and he started doing business. Now, something happened. In the first 2 or 3 months, he gave out a lot of leaflets. He attracted a lot of customers. By the second month, his customer base grew, but he could not handle the demand. People were waiting for 1 hour or 2 hours because he could only look after one customer at a time. So what happened to those people? Eventually, they walked away. They didn't come back. So by month number 3, he asked my advice. I said, have you tried to find an investor? He said, no. Why? I said, you already have a track record. You have evidence of people queuing up. You have a track record of how much you've generated in the first 2 months. Go and look for investment. So once he started looking for a first round investment, about 3 weeks later, he found someone who was prepared to invest in him in his country. He got enough money to open a second outlet, which could only cater for 2 staff, 2 customers at a time. Now he has 13 outlets around Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, Vietnam. But he is still afraid to go for a 3rd or 4th seed rounding or seed of funds. Why? Because he believes that he'd rather earn the revenue and put that towards future growth. But there is a danger there, because if he doesn't grow fast enough into the cities that he's not already in, or open enough branches, the people that were going to come to you will go somewhere else because they got sick of waiting. Do you understand what I'm saying, everyone? So seed funding or raising capital is very important. Now, if you have a proper business plan, you don't have to go and borrow from a bank if you've already started, because once the business has been running for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you can then go and raise money from investors. Does everybody understand that, guys? Yes or no? Investors get equity. The banks, you need to pay back with interest. The investors give you equity to run the business and share your profits with them. And their equity they give you will be compensated by you giving them shares in your business. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Do you understand that, Ninja? Ninja? Can you wave your hand to me, Ninja? Ninja? Zhao Ninja, Zhao, Shirian Yu, do you understand what I've just said? Okay, all right. Bai Rasan, do you understand what I just explained? Thank you. All right, good. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of this is critical. Okay, let's keep going. So if we go to the next point here, so we've already here looked at Series B funding. We've looked at Series B funding. Okay, so here we've started considering Series B, and now here we should usually have Series B. So by this stage, now that we've gone from Series A to Series B, and now we have the funds in hand, we should now be looking at, as I said, buying out a smaller business and taking over their customers, increasing our raw material or product in our warehouse, or improving our services with better technology. And of course, the resource maturity stage, ladies and gentlemen, is when this startup is now successful. It has maybe 4 or 5 branches, and they may be either considering to go public and raise money publicly, or they might be already thinking of an exit strategy where they just want to sell all their stores, collect the profit, and then start again from scratch. They might feel better at just starting new businesses and selling them off. Now, sometimes some people jump too quick to an exit strategy, and sometimes they end up suffering because they don't make as much money as they could had they delayed the exit strategy by another 1, 2, or 3 years. All right, so what do we mean by expansion financing? What is expansion financing? Does anyone here know what I mean by expansion financing? Does anyone know what this means, expansion financing? Who can tell me? What does expansion financing mean, everyone? Put up your hand if you can tell me, please. Come on, hurry up. Try, don't be shy. You're here to learn. If you're wrong, I'll correct you. What does expansion financing mean? Okay, who have I got here? Let me go to the first hand that went up. Alina Maslova, good afternoon, ma'am. Tell me, what is expansion financing? Go ahead. Hi, go ahead. I can't hear you, ma'am. I can't hear you. Can you unmute your microphone? Unmute your microphone, Alina.
Yeah, thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
okay, yeah.
Tell me,
Thank you.
what is expansion finance?
Thank you, Mr. Wally. Hi, everyone. I suppose, I don't know for sure, but I suppose it could be financing for advance the business. It could be financing for the development of the business.
Expansion is development and growth. Yes, expansion defines growth. It could be growth in physical structure, or growth in product structure, or growth in the brand identity, but it's growth, expansion of the business. Most commonly, expansion funding is when you have a plan to expand from one outlet or one country to another, or one outlet to 5 outlets. And that's very important, especially if you're running a beauty business, a food business, or a retail business. Because if you focus on only one outlet, you're not maximizing your potential customers or sales. Now, for an online business, expansion is going into new markets, developing more technology, faster technology to interact with your online service provision to your customers. For example, Nike recently introduced an app that has artificial intelligence. So what you can do now is go into the Nike app online, take a picture of your right foot and left foot with no socks on. Then you take another picture wearing your old pair of sneakers, and the actual app is artificially intelligent that it can then measure the dimension of your foot and recommend new Nike shoes that you might want. Now, when they show you this shoe, it's white. And then they give you all the colors that you can dream of. And they ask you to pick the colors you like. And then they help you design the Nike custom built that you want. Now, of course, it's not cheap. You can't buy it for $300 like you buy your normal Nike shoes, but it's still artificial intelligence. Nike has spent a lot of money to develop this artificial intelligence because Nike has realized that people going to the sports shop and buying Nike off the shelf is boring. We've been doing that for 20 years. People are sick of it. Now people want something more creative. Now people want to be able to come up with their own designs and then sell them. Everybody understand that? That would be expansion funding. But Nike is a multinational corporation, so they only have to dig into their own bank account to do the expansion. But for small entrepreneurs like Alina and all of you, you need expansion funding. And your expansion funding could be round B funding, where you look for investors round B. All right. Or it could be the same investor in round A that decides to come back and give you more in round B for more equity. Do you understand that, everyone? Now, it is not recommended that you give round A and B to the same investor, because when investor A invested in you, he may have given you 200,000 for 10%. Now your company has proven a revenue track after 1 year. So your company might be worth a lot more than 200,000 at 10%. which is basically 220,000, okay, multiplied by 5 years, okay, takes you what? Just onto over $1 million. All right. So by year 2, you don't want to go back to the same investor, because if you give away another 10%, you're only at round B. Okay, so what you want to do then is you want to start looking for more investors and say, I raised 200,000, okay, at a value of $2.1 million for 10% equity. So what I want to do now is I want to raise another 200,000, but the value of my company is no longer 1 million. Based on my business performance, the value of my business is now not 2.1 million, it's now 3.5 million. So instead of giving you 10%, I'm only going to offer 7% equity or 6% equity. So that's why you're always advised not to take the round A seed funding back to the same investor from round B, or not use round B from the same investor. You're always encouraged to try to tap new investors. Now, if your round A says, hold on, Alina, you don't have to go anywhere else. I'm happy to give you another 200,000 for only 7% more. Then it would become up for discussion. But it's very important that when you get round A funding, that's for you to start the business. Round B funding for you to stabilize the business, unless you're prepared to get enough money that can also take you from maturity to expansion. But usually companies do this in 3 stages: round A, round B, and round C to expand or to go beyond maturity stage. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Okay, let me go back to my presentation. All right, so example, a company provides a particular product or service, okay? At its expansion stage, it looks to introduce a new product or service, and even be targeting new channels and executing new marketing strategies. The extra capital from expansion could help by boosting companies' overall expansion plan, increasing their working capital, providing business with the ability to take advantage of growth opportunities that would otherwise not be available. So how are they going to do that? How are they going to buy more equipment? How are they going to hire more staff? They need expansion financing. All right. Now, once they've got the expansion financing and they start putting that into practice, they need to be able to make sure they monitor their cash flow very diligently to make sure the money they raise for expansion is actually raised for expansion or used for expansion, not simply to pay off debts that they incurred prior to raising that expansion money. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Yes or no? Does everybody understand that? So if you run a hotel and you've got 100 rooms and you want to get investment to expand and say, I want to build 1 more floor and keep going up. So we are only 3 floors now. I'm going to get the builders to build another 2 floors. Each floor will accommodate 10 rooms. So from this expansion, I will have 20 more hotel rooms at an average rental of this much per night. Over 365 days a year, my projected income with the more rooms will be this much. But the point is, you need to make sure that happens, because you don't want to take the expansion funding and 2 years later say to your investor, we didn't build the rooms, we used the money to pay off our debts, because the investor will come after you. Do you understand that, everyone? So you must make sure whenever you ask for expansion funding, you have done your analysis and know exactly how much you need. Do not underestimate, do not overestimate, but take into consideration any costs that you need to settle in order to be able to effectively roll out that implementation. Does everybody understand that? Glissa, are you there, Glissa? Okay, great, excellent, thank you. All right, let's move on. Okay, so you need to monitor your cash flow. You need to make sure that you have control of your cash receivables and cash payable. Companies must ensure their financial statements provide information that is timely, relevant, and accurate. Your cash flow statements must be perfect without any ambiguity, because if you're at round B and going for round C finance, your investor will want to see cash flow statements and he want to be able to see that you're prudent. You need to negotiate with suppliers, contractors, and landlords for better prices or short-term reductions. And you even consider trading goods and services in exchange for credits instead of cash. Now, this idea of exchanging goods and services used to work prior to COVID-19. Now, most businesses will say, beforehand, I can give you raw material. You have technology. Share the technology with me, etc., and they do a deal. These days, deals are very unlikely. You buy something, you want to do something, you need to pay for it. So cash is critical. But it is also important that when you buy materials from your suppliers, you don't only rely on one supplier, you look for a bunch of suppliers who can supply you the same product or service and negotiate the best price. So what you need to do is build a understanding with your suppliers that, I go to where I can get the best service at the best price. But don't get yourself in a position where no supplier wants to supply you. Okay, so for example, if you are a bakery and you need flour, you don't buy flour from only one flour mill. You buy from 3. So if one of them disagrees with you, you still have 2. If 2 of them disagree with you, then you don't have to close your business. You still have one more supplier. And with each of those suppliers, you need to make sure that you're getting the best possible price for the flour. Do you understand that, guys? Okay, so you never rely on one supplier only. You should always have 2 to 3 suppliers supplying you any one particular service or raw material that you need to run your business. Does everybody follow that? Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay, you always have to look at cost. If you're opening a retail shop and you want to attract high-end customers to pay $2,000 for a dress, then the decor in that shop has to be of the standard of an upmarket dress shop. Okay? If you want to sell $5 t-shirts on the streets of Bangkok, you don't need a shop. All you need is a tent with a line and coat hangers, and you can sell. So remember, depending on your expansion, what you want to do and what your business plan is and what the business plans to project as its image will actually help you decide on how much expansion funding you need. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Do you understand that, Marie? Do you understand that, Marie? Marie Laranja? Are you there, Marie? Okay, all right. Okay, so does everybody understand what I've said so far? Do you understand what I've said so far, Ishwar? Okay, Bikram? Can everybody put their hand up if they understand, please? Where's Marie gone? Is Marie still here? Amala? Is she still here or has she gone? I think we lost her internet. Okay, no problem. Okay, does everybody understand what I just said? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay. Divaldi, do you understand what I just said, Divaldi? Yes, Divaldi? Divaldi Eki? Support. Thank you. Okay. So let's go on, guys. Let's go on and talk about what else is important. Okay. So other than monitoring cash, just bear with me for a minute, would you? Okay. What happened here? Just one moment. Other than monitoring cash, you should also note that monitoring cash flow, there are several ways for you as a company to use your cash. You should always look at what government grants, what tax discounts, what taxation strategies you have to actually help you maximize on the cash in the bank. So there are several ways small companies can use smart financing tax strategies to increase their case reserves they have available to invest and grow. So instead of paying tax on $1 million, you might be able to find tax loopholes to pay tax on $800,000. But you need to understand the tax strategies and what other business startup grants are available from your government in your country. Cash flow management. Of course, cash flow is very important for any business. Cash flow is a potential problem for small business. In the US and Canada, they did a census in 2020. Only 28% of the businesses surveyed revealed that they had enough cash on hand to operate for another 3 months. This was halfway through the COVID-19 crisis where people were dying. Only 28% of some 10 million businesses had enough money to survive 3 months. Most business owners were using their personal savings. One method to manage cash flow is through automating processes. That means instead of employing an accountant, you actually use accounting software and learn how to do it yourself as a small business entrepreneur. Instead of employing a sales team, you employ only 2 salespeople and you provide them software where they generate invoices themselves rather than sending the order to the finance department to create. The more automation you can create, the lower you can reduce your manpower investment or manpower costs by automating the processes, but still maintaining the same level of quality and service. The more effectively you can manage your cash reserves and your cash flow. Using financial software with functions including invoicing, financial report generation, data collection and document storage, and compliance can save you money from employing 2 or 3 people in the finance department. Of course, tax management, which I just spoke to you about. Tax management is very, very important. If you don't understand tax laws in your country and you don't understand what benefits you can enjoy, for example, on payroll services, save you payroll tax, manage deductions and depreciation, whether it's state or federal taxes, you need to learn that because otherwise you could find yourself in a financial predicament. The best practices to minimize taxes include choosing proper business structure for a company and being mindful of changes regarding the deduction of expenses. Remember, if you form a business, private limited, there is many more forms of deductions available for that business in order to reduce their tax. But if you open the business as a sole proprietor, then the amount of tax deductions or benefits offered to a business as such may not be offered to a sole proprietor. So it's very important to ask advice on that. If you're not sure, just let me know. Alternative funding. Now remember, when it comes to alternative funding, external funding, small businesses should try for seed funding from investors. But if you can't find an investor to start with, you may have to use a bank loan or even a personal credit card to get enough money to fund the business to start with until you have a business track record where you can borrow from investors. Remember, you always need financial statements. You need to show a track record in revenue, and you need to make sure that your financial activity is in accordance with your country's taxation laws so that an investor who wants to invest will feel comfortable investing in you. There is one more type of funding or other funding, and we call that crowdfunding. Now, alternative funding methods and options include crowdfunding, and this is the most popular form of alternative finance. The platform offers investment, pre-sale of the product, or other rewards in exchange for donations. There are also emerging forms of crowdfunding for small businesses. One is debt-based crowdfunding, is essentially a peer-to-peer loan where a small business can look to raise capital in the form of a loan or a promissory note to be paid back at a fixed interest rate to another business or just to a investor out in the world, in the cyberspace, who wants to become a crowdfunding bank or a crowdfunding investor when you go looking for a crowdfunding investor. Regulation crowdfunding allows eligible private companies to offer and sell securities in order to raise large amounts of capital. Another form of crowdfunding is what's called regulatory crowdfunding, but that requires the company to have a balance sheet, to have a track record, and to meet the requirements to issue securities in their country based on corporate law. And there's asset leasing. Asset leasing is where you don't buy machines, you don't buy capital, but you rent it, you lease it. Does everybody here know what it means when I say lease? Does everybody understand the meaning of leasing? Okay, great. What does leasing mean? Who can tell us? Come on, I know Alina wants to, but I need to hear from other students. Anyone else put their hand up? What is leasing? Okay, I've got somebody here. Roland Clavel, can you tell me what is leasing, sir? Go ahead, Roland. Open your microphone, Roland. Hi, Roland. What's
Yeah, yes, sir.
leasing?
Good afternoon to
Good
everybody.
afternoon. Yeah, tell me, what is
Yeah,
leasing? How does it work?
uh, leasing is uh, renting of machineries and any
Very good.
location where you have the asset to
Very
generate
good.
funds.
Very, very good. So how leasing works, what Roland says, Roland wants to buy a machine for his factory worth 150,000 US dollars, but he doesn't want to pay for it. So he goes to a finance company who leases it back to him. So what happens is a finance company buys the machine, they lease it back to Roland, and Roland pays them for the machine every month. Now, a leasing contract can have a zero residual or can have a residual. And this is what it means. Roland, do you know what the difference is between residual and zero residual? Roland?
So far, I need to check this one, sir.
Okay, let me explain it to you. A leasing
Thank you so much.
contract with residual means at the end of the leasing contract, say 2 years, Roland will be told that he needs to pay X amount of dollars. At the end of 2 years, you can pay $20,000 and keep the equipment. Okay? That is with a residual. All right. Now, when you set a residual at the end of the contract, your monthly lease payments will be lower. Okay. All right. Now,
Yes,
if you
okay.
set a leasing contract with zero residual, it means that at the end of the leasing period, okay, you keep the equipment. It belongs to you.
I see.
All right. So that means that your lease price on a monthly basis will go up. Okay. Now, technically speaking, if you have a zero residual, you don't have to worry about it. But if you have a fixed residual amount and you can't pay that, you basically hand the machine back to the finance company. Do you understand that, everyone? Yes or no? Now, why
Yes.
is leasing cheaper? It's much cheaper. For example, if you're going to open a food processing plant, the equipment in that plant might be $1.5 million. And if you lease that over 10 years or the life of that machinery, your monthly deduction or monthly installment to the leasing company on 1.5 million might only be $3,000. It's still cheaper to give them $3,000 and use that machinery every month than take $1.5 million out of your capital to inject into buying the machinery. Does everybody understand that? So no smart businessman will invest $1.5 million in machinery if he doesn't have at least 4 million in the bank, because he will cut himself short. So what do? They lease it. All right. Now what happens? If the machinery has a life of 10 years, okay, at the end of the 10 years, and you've been paying monthly for that machinery, it's probably already 10 years old. And every year during the 10 years, as part of your tax submission, you would depreciate the value of that equipment. So you would write off the value of that equipment for 1 year. It's now 1 year older. So therefore, that would become a tax deduction. Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Do you understand what I'm saying, Roland? Yeah. Okay. And this is very simple today. This is very simple. This leasing idea is used in almost every business around the world. Every business around the world. Whether you're starting a salon, a beauty salon, whether you're starting a food shop, a restaurant, they lease the kitchen equipment, they lease the furniture, they lease everything. Okay? Does everybody understand that? Yes or no? Okay, let's keep going. All right, small business owners should be mindful of changes to accounting rules for leases, and all leases must be included on the balance sheet. So even when you lease equipment, you must also include that in your balance sheet, and we'll learn about that in another lesson where we learn how to prepare the balance sheet and the financial statement. Insurance. All small businesses must have insurance, not only for fire and protection of equipment and property, also for professional negligence, etc. You all need to have insurance. Okay, companies also need commercial auto coverage for business vehicles, workers' compensation coverage. These days, cybersecurity insurance, especially if you have information and you're running an e-commerce business, which would protect you in the event that somebody hacks your system, steals your data, and you need to pay for a breach of privacy and may be sued, and you have to pay damages. So you need to have what we call cybersecurity insurance, which would protect you against that. All right, successful small business monitors cash flow, proactively manages taxes, and keep up to date on alternative funding options. They take advantages of asset leasing and ensure the business is protected from risk with all the possible insurance elements available. Okay, financial projections are critical for small business, and you should always have a financial projection, not only for the first year, but for the first 3 years. And you should be reviewing that projection on an average of every 3 months. Okay. Now, usually a financial projection is prepared to present a course of action for evaluation. It's a type of pro forma statement. It's basically a projection of what your business is going to generate in revenue over the first, second, and third year. It's very important to have a 3-year business projection if you're going for an investor to give you money. If you go to the bank, they might only ask for 1 or 2 years, but usually crowdfunding or capital seed investors will ask you for anywhere from 3 to 5 year projections. Okay, example, Linda's Linens is growing its sales volume 10% each year, and that growth has been steady for the last 18 months. After looking at her financial forecasts, it's reasonable for Linda to assume that growth will continue, and she should plan accordingly. All right, so this step helps her in planning how much inventory to bring in, how many salespeople to hire, and how much money she needs to allocate to future marketing to keep growing the business. Linda is considering a second location, so she prepares a financial projection to show her bank a what-if scenario to see how much growth she might expect if she received a loan to open another store on the other side of town. This could be for the bank, or it could be for an investor. The hypothetical situation of opening a new location in the financial projection is what makes it different from the sustained growth that might reasonably suspect in her ongoing balance sheet. Okay, so a business plan must include financial projections and how the business plan is to grow hand in hand. All right. I think most of you have attended a lesson that I delivered on what is a business plan and how do you develop a business strategy. If you haven't attended that and you'd like to let me know, if there's enough people, I will run that again in the coming weeks. All right, so it's good to practice to provide quarterly or monthly projections for the first year and annual projections for the 4 years after that. So as I said, I suggest that whenever you start a business, you should actually always have projections for at least the first 4 to 5 years and constantly review those projections against actuals monthly or quarterly without fail. Potential investors want to know if your business will make money and when they can expect a return, and that's why they need to see your projections. Loans and lines of credit, these are most common sources of external funding, but to obtain a loan or to get someone to give you money, they also want to know how much money you're making, what your projected income is over the next 3, 4, or 5 years, and how will you be able to pay their loan back? Can you generate enough revenue based on past history? Knowing the business, remember that when you write a projection, make sure you know what you're talking about, okay? Because you would not be surprised how many people prepare a financial projection, but when the investor asks them, what technology do you need to make sure you can meet the growth in customer demand, they can't answer the question. You follow that, guys? Yes or no? It's a very simple scenario. I have one hairdressing salon. It's Korean. In that salon, I have 3 girls from Korea and 3 guys, 6 stylists. Right now, 6 stylists can do 36 customers every day, working an 8-hour shift. I want to open 2 more salons, and I want to project the growth for the next 5 years. I need to tell the investor how many people will be working there, how big is the store, how much space do I need to have 8 working spaces for 8 stylists, okay? If the store opens from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., based on the services you offer, how many clients can each of them look after in one day, and what is the maximum revenue they can each generate? Then you must also outline what is the cost of keeping the place open, electricity, etc. And then based on that, what is your profit projection for per month, per quarter, half yearly, and yearly for the next 5 years? Do you understand that, guys? Now, if you say after year 2, I'll have 3 salons, in year 3, I'll have 6 salons, all of that must be broken down by projection. Do you understand that? Yes or no? Now, there's another interesting principle in business that the beauty world or beauty business industry has taken up, whereby Alina opens a salon. In her salon, she has 12 stations, 12 stations, 12 chairs, 12 mirrors, 12 stations. She might employ 6 girls to work for her full time. The other 6 she doesn't employ. She lets freelance stylists actually pay her rent for that chair on the day when they work. So Alina could say, okay, you're a Japanese stylist, you've got your own customers, you can't afford to open your own salon, you can use my salon, my name. Every day you're in the salon, I want $200 rent for that chair. I don't care how much business you do, I get $200 rent. Now, of course, Alina would first calculate what the potential earning is and make sure that her rental covers her potential earning. Do you understand that, everyone? Yes or no? All right. That's a different model. It's a different model. It's a model of business that the beauty industry took up. And there's other business that are exploring similar models. The education business, for example, you go to a university, instead of having 200 professors full-time, they only have 100 professors full-time. And then depending on how many students they have, they bring in a freelance professor just to teach that class for 1 month and then go. That way they don't have to pay exhaustive salaries and entitlements for 1 year. Do you understand what I mean by that, everyone? These are all different ways that you should be thinking of to reduce the costs in running your business. Do you understand that, Lee T. Tan? Jennifer Godos, you need to look at the camera, Jennifer, or you won't be getting any certificate. I don't write certificates for a camera that's looking at the wall. I only give certificates to students who are actually attending the lesson. So if any of you are not in front of your camera and you've switched your camera on and gone outside, you will not be getting a certificate. The only people who get certificates are the people who are looking and attending the class and learning. I do not give certificates to gray walls and white walls. I hope you all understand that, guys. Okay, let's go on. All right, let me go back to my presentation. Okay, so knowing the business. So you need to know the business, of course, all right? Building a financial projection is very, very critical. Some common scenarios for projections are monthly projections for 1 quarterly or for the next 2 years and annual thereafter. So for the first 2 years, you must break the numbers quarterly, and from year 3 to 5, it's just on an annual basis. To build financial projections and make them as useful as possible, you need to consider the following. How much do you estimate in sales revenue? How much do you estimate the interest rate will be on the debts or loans you have, if you have any? What is the cost of goods sold for the goods you're going to sell or services you're going to deliver? How much is the income tax rate that you have to pay as a business or a company? Okay, what is the sales revenue estimate? Remember, sales revenue estimate is critical. That's why I put it there twice. How much do you have in accounts receivable collection on record? So that means how many people owe you money? How much will you get? How much will your customers who have credit with you pay you every month for the next 12 months? How much of that will be paid? If you give your customers credit for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you need to actually project how much will be paid back over those periods. And what is your operating cost? What is your operating cost? All right. Building a financial projection, you also need to show your accounts payable schedule, how often you have to pay rent. What is that rent? Accounts payable schedule, you need to show all the payments you have to make for suppliers, for electricity, for water, everything. You need to outline that and show that in your projection. Your capital expenditures on machinery, etc. How much do you expend on machinery every month? Do you lease it? Do you have to pay lease rental for your equipment? And etc. Inventory turnover. How much inventory do you have in your warehouse? How much is it worth? How quickly does it turn over based on a month, quarterly, half yearly, and yearly basis? You need to show your gross margin by product. So if you have 20 products, you need to show what your gross profit and net profit is for each product. Net profit, gross profit for each product. You need to show your depreciation schedules on the equipment you have. Somebody is drawing on my screen, Amala. Could you please either warn that person or remove them from the session, please? People are drawing on my screen, Amala. Please fix it. Okay, so depreciation schedules are very important. Vatu, could you stop drawing on my screen? Mr. Amala, could you take care of it, please? Okay. You need to show any sales increase due to seasonal reasons or due to special promotions or festivals for each product that you sell. Okay, so depreciation schedules are basically how much depreciation you have planned to claim on your tax bill for that year. And you need to highlight which assets that you're going to depreciate. Now, how you go about creating a sales forecast? A company must start their projections by understand what is driving their sales. Please stop writing on my screen, Vatu. Mr. Amala, could you remove Vatu from this session, please? Either remove him or ask him to stop drawing on my screen, please. Thank you. So you must create proper sales forecasts. For example, you have a business that sells physical products in stores. For a business that sells physical products, the sales forecast should have an estimate of how many units you're going to sell, what is the price per unit, and what is the profit per unit, gross profit and net profit. Mr. Amala, he's doing it again. Please do the needed. Okay. How many stores do you have that sell this product? How many will be sold in each store, and how much revenue will you generate? All right. You need to make sure if you have 10 stores, you break it down by store. You must factor in things that might affect sales, like seasonality. For example, more ice cream is sold in summer. More shoes are sold at the end of the month when people get their salaries. All right. More money is generated during Christmas or pre-Christmas or pre-New Year when people spend money on gifts and buying new fashion or getting their hair done because they have to go to parties. You must also do the same for your expense. You must show your expenses, including your cost of goods sold. You must also take into account headcount, salaries, and benefits like superannuation or any other compulsory benefits you have to pay based on your country's employment laws. You also have to take in expenses such as advertising, rent. Okay, all of this will change and express everything except for headcount as a percentage. So you need to show your headcount. You need to say that I have a headcount of 25 people. This is the cost of my headcount. Okay, so everything else except for the number of headcount, 20 people, when it comes to salaries, benefits, and other expenses like advertising, etc., you must show them in dollar value and also express them as a percentage of total expenses. So you need to create an income statement projection, cash flow projection, and a balance sheet projection. All of this is needed for your financial projections. Use projections for planning. Example, what if you charge a higher or lower price? How much will that increase or lower your revenue? All of this must be part of your projection. And you must explain why you've chosen to sell at the lower price or higher price. You must monitor it and compare your projections against actual results on a regular basis. Okay, how to start or set up a small business bookkeeping system. I won't go through all of this. I'll send you the PowerPoint and you can read it, but it's very simple. Small businesses may use either accounting or accrual accounting, cash accounting or accrual accounting. Cash accounting is very simple. It records revenues when the money is received by the business and expenses when they pay the supplier in cash. This is the same kind of accounting that individuals use when balancing their checkbooks. Accrual accounting records are when basically revenues when they are earned, which may be long before the customer pays the business. For example, is my customer orders a new book. He wants a new book bound for him and personalized. So he's already placed the order. So that revenue has been earned before he actually gets the book and pays the business. Similarly, expenses are recorded when the business incurs them and not when it pays them. That's the difference between cash accounting and accrual accounting. For most small business entrepreneurs, they usually start in the first 3 or 6 months on a cash accounting basis until they get accounting software and go on to accrual accounting. Now, in another lesson, we'll look at the difference between cash accounting and accrual accounting, and I'll teach you how to use both, and I'll show you how you can manage both and suggest software to you. Set up a business bank account. That's as easy as knowing what the business requirements in your country are, making sure you have a copy of your business registration, copy of your ID, etc., to open a bank account. Now, some banks now provide businesses a web platform where the business can manage its payments and expenditure through the bank. But if not, you should definitely consider getting your own bookkeeping or accounting software. Pick a bookkeeping software package for small business. There is many, and we'll go through those in one of the other lessons. Okay, chart of accounts. Again, a chart of accounts is a list of accounts that is set up in the bookkeeping system to track all financial activities, and we'll learn about all of these when I show you how to set up a bookkeeping system. Set up expense tracking system, very much the same. Prepare your bank reconciliation. Again, bank reconciliation means reconciliating the money that has come into your bank versus what should have come in. Having transactions automatically imported from the bank into your financial software will save you having to get your bank statement and check it physically with a pen to make sure the money you've received is from this customer. All right. Okay, financial reporting system and balance sheet. For example, how to set up a small business bookkeeping system. The formula: assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity, and we'll go through those in detail when we learn how to create a balance sheet. For example, here, accounts receivable, he has $10 in cash, $20 pending payments in accounts receivable. His total assets are $30. He has accounts payable that he has to pay for $5. His total liabilities are $5. So basically, the owner's equity is $25. Okay, common stock is $25. Total liability and owner's equity is $30. Does everybody understand that? Okay, good. Income statements. We will go through that when we prepare an income statement. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, an income statement is net income, which equals revenue minus expenses. Revenue is $6,400. Expenses were $1,815 minus $1,815 from $6,400. That means the net income for the year ended 31st December 2015 would have been $4,585. Cash flow statement. Again, this shows cash flow received from customers, cash paid for merchandise, cash paid to employees, cash paid in interest was $0, cash paid for income taxes. So take out what you received after you paid out. That means net cash provided by operating activities was only $24,300. Cash flows from investing, you invested money, okay, purchase of property and equipment, you paid out 101,000 in brackets, right? If it was incoming, there wouldn't be brackets. Anything with brackets is a payment out. Okay, cash flows from finance activities, payment on line of credit, okay, $10,000, okay, proceeds from long-term debt, $99,500, okay, so that means 10,000 plus 99,500, you had 109,500 net cash provided, used in financing activities. Net increase or decrease in cash, one minus the other, would have taken you to 32,800. So that means your ending cash balance sheet, you have $32,800 in cash. All right, so what we do is we'll talk about all of this in more detail when we learn how to prepare those balance sheets. Does everybody understand what I've tried to do here today? I've tried to open your minds as to what's involved in running a business and having business financial statements. All right. Now, I've opened your mind. However, I can't teach you how to prepare a balance sheet, a profit and loss statement in 2 hours. So not next week, probably the week after or the week after, there will be one lesson on producing a balance sheet, and there'll be another one on producing a profit and loss statement. Does everybody understand that, guys? Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I've said today? Anyone? Anybody have any questions? Mary Faith, do you have any questions? I need to get lots of questions because, you know, I've done all the talking and you've been relaxing. So I want to see lots of questions. So let's start. All these people here who have not switched on their camera, Reyuretis, Oktar, Ajane Perez, Ansur, all of you who have switched off your camera, if you do not get a certificate, it's because you switched off your camera. A condition of this class is your camera must remain on throughout the whole session for you to get a certificate. So if you switch off your camera, there is a chance you may not get a certificate. Please be warned. This is training for you to learn. It's not so that I give you a piece of paper for you hiding in the toilet or playing cards or actually watching TV. You need to attend the class. So if your camera is not on and you're not participating and you don't receive a certificate, you know the reason. Thank you. Okay, guys, so let me go back and let's talk about what we've learnt today. Okay, let me start by asking Bray Rasan. Hi, Bray, tell me. Bray, what have you learnt today, Bray? Are you there, Bray Rasan? Bray Rasan, are you there? Can you unmute your microphone? Bray Rasan, you won't learn anything if you run away when I ask you a question. Are you there, Bray? Yeah, tell me, what have you learnt today?
Yes, and then yes, fitness and small business and something
Right.
like
Okay, so do you understand how important the financial statement is, Bray?
yes,
Okay, good. Okay, please make sure you continue following up so you learn how to produce a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement. All right? Good on you, mate. Okay, let's talk to Dixon. Hi, Dixon. How are you today? Are you there, Dixon? Hello, Dixon. How are you today?
Yes.
Have you benefited anything from today's session, Dixon?
Yeah, very much, especially for the balance sheet which you were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and you've learned something about leasing equipment, which will help you, and always try to optimize how you get equipment or how you can monetize that equipment without paying for it up front. That will help you a lot, Dixon. Do you understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, yes, I understand.
Okay, good on you, Dixon. I'll talk to you again soon. Are you there,
Oh.
Roland? Hi, Roland. Roland, do you have any questions, Roland, about anything we've covered, sir?
Yes, sir. I just want to go back to the fixed residual and the zero residual because a little bit confused regarding these issues.
About what? What's
Correct me if I'm wrong. My
yes?
understanding regarding the fixed residual is providing equipment totally by rent, and then zero residual is rent and plus the percentage, just like you are renting to own the machine.
That's correct.
Is it
Yes,
right
that's
or
correct.
not?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Yes, yes, yes. So basically, what you're saying, let me explain it. So we're talking about leasing a machine. Leasing a
Yes,
machine
yes,
is paying rent every month. Yes, sir. So let me
yes,
explain how it
yes,
works, Roland. Let me explain. So you bring in a machine on your books worth $1.1 million. All right. The
yeah,
machine is
yes,
on your
okay,
books with a value of $1.1 million. Okay, you have a
okay,
machine. You need to depreciate that because every year the machine gets older, the value of that machine depreciates. Okay, so that
yes,
becomes a
yes.
tax benefit for you. You reduce your tax bill. Now, how do you pay for that machine? Let me ask you, Roland, if you're going to bring in a machine worth 1.5 million, correct? Which is cheaper?
Yes.
Is to pay for it as the machine gets older, or to pay 1.5 million upfront? Which is cheaper?
I better rent, sir.
Okay, so
It's
this is what happens.
good for the financial
Okay, so what you do is you go
situation.
to a finance leasing company, or you go to the supplier of the machine and you say, I want to buy the machine, but you have to arrange leasing for me. Okay, so the supplier will go to a leasing company and say, Roland's factory is opening. The leasing company will come and look at your factory. The supplier will show them where the machine is going to be installed and the maximum performance of that machine and the number of years it will operate for. So then the finance company will say, okay, Roland, for you to buy the machine today, its value is $1.1 million. We'll sell you that machine, or we'll buy that machine, put it in your factory and lease it back to you. However, the lease will be over 10 years because that's the expected life of the machine. Now, at the end of the 10 years, the depreciation value of the machine will be this. So therefore, you have two choices. You can either take the machine with zero residual. That means at the end of the term of the lease, the machine is yours. You keep it, lock, stock, barrel, spare parts, everything. Or you can set a residual value. Now, at the end of the 10 years, if you don't pay that residual value, then we take the machine away, we sell it, and you buy a new machine. All right? Okay? Now, how do businesses decide on the net residual value or the fixed residual value? It's usually an estimate of what the machine is worth after 10 years. You follow me? But remember, at the end of the 10 years, you have not paid 1.1 million. You have paid more because you have paid interest on the cost, right?
Yes,
But
still,
at the end of the day, sir, that interest is an expense because it's part of the leasing cost, right? And yeah, it's interest. And as you saw in the sheet I showed you, but what you do at the initial stage is you're reducing your capital expenditure to set up the business, and you're allowing the equipment to come in and start generating revenue for you. And over 10 years, hopefully, the machine will generate 15,000 multiples of revenue, or generate, huge amounts of revenue for you, where it'll well overcome the interest you paid on leasing the machine. Do you follow where I'm coming from, Roland? Does that simplify it for you?
Yes. Thank you so much, sir.
It's my pleasure, Roland. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, does anybody else want to ask any questions? Go ahead. Come on, guys. Anyone? Yes, Alina, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Wole.
go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just explored the scheme on different stages, and I see the stage 5, like resource maturity, and here we can see that this stage is open to various form of crisis. And I could say there are like 4 previous form of different crisis. And could you please tell these are all form of crisis, or there is something else, something different? It's a common question, but I would like to learn more about crisis.
Crisis is anything you might encounter during that stage, all right? It could be technological crisis, it could be customer crisis, could be product crisis, or it could simply be capital shortage. You understand what I mean? Each of those elements is crisis. Let me take it in the simple form. So I've started a business of selling services online. Okay. Now, in my first month, I sell it in social media. I go to Facebook and all the other social medias in my country, and I spend like $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 hitting social media. And I generate money. I generate an income, right? So the cost of acquiring the customer may be $24 per customer, or $20 per customer, or $8 per customer, depending on the count. But suddenly, guess what? The number of customers you start getting through social media drops. So what happens? That is a crisis, right? Because you're no longer getting the same number of customers for the amount of dollar you're spending. So what is happening? Your acquisition costs to acquire new customers goes up through the roof. And the other crisis could be is if you're not retaining customers. Do you understand that? Because remember, acquiring customers is one cost, but retaining customers is at a lower cost. So if you're acquiring a rate of 5% of your current base every month, so you have 100 people and you're acquiring only 10%, that's 10, you're acquiring 5 new customers, which is 5%, but you're losing 5 customers every month. That is a retention of 0, correct? Because you're acquiring 5, you're losing 5, right? So if you're acquiring 50 and losing 5, it's acceptable. So you need to, all of this can be a crisis. Each one is a crisis point, and every business has a different crisis point. Now, if you want me to highlight the crisis your business could face, it's easy. You just send me an email explaining what your business is and telling me what you think the crisis points are. And let me tell you, I'll probably list another 10 in red for you to consider. But this doesn't mean that you will suffer that crisis. It only indicates that these are potential crisis points. You follow what I'm trying to say? And this happens.
Yes.
This happens. You know, you open a restaurant. Okay, usually a restaurant is as good as a chef. Am I right, Dixon? You go to a restaurant because of a chef. Okay, so you go to a restaurant and you enjoy the food. Okay, but after 1 month, the chef you brought in from Korea says, I don't want to work here anymore. Your salary's too low. So you're at crisis point. You either have to increase his salary and maybe have to face difficulty in paying all the salaries or lose him. So if you lose him and get another chef, that's a big problem, because if that chef can't maintain the quality the other guy did, you're going to plunge into another crisis because you're going to fail to retain customers. So all of these things are crisis points. And this is why it's really important when you prepare a business plan, your financial plan forecasts. You're going to hire a chef from Korea. How much does a Korean chef with 5 years experience cost? What is the minimum salary that they want? What is a salary that's paid to a Korean chef with 5 years experience that you've searched on the internet through a salary guide? Okay. And when you bring him to your country, what is the additional expense? Housing, insurance, how much additional expense? So for you to keep that chef for 1 year, how much is he going to cost you? All right. And when you put that chef in the kitchen, he needs 2 assistants. How much are the assistants going to cost you? Do they need to have the same skills as him or no skill at all? Well, let me tell you, if he's a Korean chef, the guys working with him in the kitchen will probably have to be Korean as well, with less experience, because he may not speak English. And then he might need 2 or 3 dishwashers. He might need kitchen prep people. So all of these are costs that you need to consider. And if you haven't taken those into consideration, you're going to have a crisis point. And that crisis point could be so severe that the chef walks out and you have to close the restaurant. Your income drops to 0, right? And what happens to your investment if you can't reopen that restaurant? It's dead. It's gone. It's carte blanche. You understand that? I know
Yes.
I've simplified it, but I've tried to simplify it so you can understand it. You understand where I'm coming from? Thank you very
Yes,
much.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Does everybody understand what I mean by crisis points? You understand it, Maricel? Okay. All right. I have another hand that's gone up. Mary Faith Galvey, do you want to ask any questions? I need to see you on camera, Mary Faye. Sorry, I need to see you on camera. Good, excellent. Thank you, Mary Faye. You're there. Okay, all right. No, Mary Faith, your camera is switched off again. You're unlikely to get a certificate, Mary Faith. I haven't seen you on camera for the whole lesson. And Gelen, you're unlikely to get a certificate. I haven't seen you on camera for the whole lesson. All right. Let's go on. Who else has a question? Yes, Mary Faith, do you want to ask a question? Your hand has gone up. No? Okay. All right. Who else would like to ask a question? Maricel, do you have a question? Okay. Who else would like to ask a question? T. Kim. Hi, T. Kim. It's so good to hear from you. Go ahead. Hi, T. Kim.
Hello.
Hi. How are you, Chloe? Nice to see you, gorgeous.
Good.
What's your
Yeah,
question?
hello. Yeah, the lesson today is very interesting. It relates especially in financial problems. So I'm gonna ask like one of the ways to increase the finance is to find an investor. So
Yes.
so where can we meet them? Last time I have joined a lesson, the teacher told us to go to Shark Tank to raise a capital, but is there anything else, any other ways?
Right. What did he tell you? How did he tell you to raise it last time? What did he tell you?
Like last time, the teacher told us, she showed us a chapter of Shark Tank, which
Yep.
is very interesting. Yeah,
Right.
so instead of going to Shark Tank, is there other ways to meet the investors?
Well, short-term funding is short-term funding and meeting investors is a very good way to do it. But the problem is that those investors usually are not as liquid as some of the long-term or more soluble investors. Okay, so there's two ways you can do it. You can do what my other colleague suggested to you. The other way is to reach out to capital funding, any capital seed funding group. If you go to the internet and look for capital funding or seed funding groups or organizations, you can put in seed funding in your country or seed funding investors or capital investors and look for them and approach them directly. That's one way. The other way is to consider crowdfunding, where you put your business up to a group of capital investors and see who wants to take a share in it. There's several ways of doing it, T. Kim, but it really depends on which market you're heading into and what sort of business you want to open. So if you can send me an email telling me what industry you're in and what geographical region you're in, I can give you the three quickest way to raise funding. I can actually give you either a website or I can give you steps to follow to go to. But it depends on the industry because some investors are focused on a particular industry. And the short version of it is what you learned is the point is that you might not attract the right investor for your industry. So do I recommend it? I do. It's worth trying. But the more sensible way would be to have somebody like me give you some tips on where to go, which companies to approach, or which type of investors to approach, depending on your geographical location. Does that help you? What part of the world are you in, Chloe? Hi, Chloe. Where are you? What part of the world? Are you there, Chloe? Hi, Chloe.
Yeah, so I'm from Vietnam.
All right. So are you in Ho Chi Minh or where are you?
Yeah, I'm in Ho Chi Minh City.
Okay. Well, there's no shortage of funds of investors in Ho Chi Minh. So if you drop me an email and tell me what sort of business you're looking for, I can give you some ideas about who to contact. But of course, before you contact that, Chloe, make sure you have a business plan drawn. And if you need someone to read that plan and just give you some tips before you send it to them confidentially, I'm happy to do it for you. All right. I have no problem. Okay. But
Fantastic. Thank you.
the biggest danger that young people do is they go to an investor without a proper plan and they'll get rejected. Remember, an investor will only waste 2 minutes flipping through your business plan. If the business plan looks healthy, he'll spend an hour reading it. If it looks like a heap of garbage that you've copied from Google and there's no serious thought in it and it's not creative, in 2 minutes you'll say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Do you understand where I'm coming from, Chloe?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chloe. God bless you. I'll talk to you soon. Drop me an email anytime, Chloe. You have my email address, right?
Yes, yes, I
Good on you,
do.
mate. Okay. Does anybody else want to ask a question like Chloe? This lady's on fire. She's going to be a billionaire soon. I can tell you, Chloe is going to make millions soon. This girl is on fire. Congratulations, Chloe. I'm so proud of you. Okay. Congratulations, Alina. I'm so proud of you. These two girls are going to be the next Mrs. Fields of the business world. Okay. You know who Mrs. Field is? She's one of the richest women in the world. She started baking cookies in her kitchen and now she's the biggest name in cookie mixture. All right, cookie flour. All right, who else? Anybody else? Look at Oprah Winfrey. Does everybody know Oprah Winfrey? Oprah Winfrey started with a small idea to have her own production studio, and now she owns one of the biggest private production studios in the world. She was just like Alina. She was just like Chloe when she was a school kid, a teenager, clueless. And look at her now. She's a multi-trillionaire, not a billionaire. I repeat, trillionaire. Okay? All right? You don't want to know how much she's worth. Okay? If I could marry her, I'd be the happiest man in the world, but I'm already married, so that's not going to happen. Okay? All right. Any questions? Maricel, any questions? No? Okay. All right. We got one more question. Yes, Roland? Yes, Roland?
Yes, sir. I was relate too much regarding our topics because as an OFW overseas Filipino worker, our
Yeah.
Philippine government is giving us chance
Yeah.
to give us a small capital to start as for the micro business in the
Yeah.
Philippines.
Okay, good.
Yeah, to start as micro entrepreneurs.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's very grateful for, and I'm so grateful for this information you have given
But
us
no,
today.
Roland, if
It's
you
very useful.
no, but Roland, before you submit to the Philippine government, if you've written your proposal in English and you want me to read through it and give you some tips, I'd be happy to do that. You just send it to me, Market Confidential, by email. Give me 7 days and I will come back to you. I'm happy to do that, providing you're one of my students. No issue at all. All
Yes,
right?
sir. Thank you so much, sir.
It's
And
my pleasure.
the government also, they have some agency
Yeah.
for they are giving us the training and some
Well,
sort of information regarding
Roland,
this
what you do is you go
from
to the agents training, you go to the agents training, you learn what you need to learn from them, you put it into a document, then you let me have a
yes,
look at it, and all I'm going to do is improve on it. But you still need to go to their training because you need to understand
yes.
the Filipino government requirements. Once you've
Yes, sir.
answered all of that, I can help you to make sure that your answers are correct. Okay?
Thank you so much, sir. Thank
You're
you so much.
welcome,
I'm
Roland. Take
grateful
care.
for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for me? Go ahead. All right. Where's my co-host today? Where's my boss today? Mr. Amala, are you back? Hello, Amala? Mr. Amala? I think Mr. Amala is busy with a student. That's okay. All right, anyone? Does anybody else have any questions for me before I go? Mr. Amala, are you there? Mr. Amala, thank you for being my host and my boss today. It's good to see you all. Mr. Amala and me would like to thank you all for joining BizTalk today. We look forward to seeing you not next week, the week after. And remember, learning is a lifelong journey. The more you learn, the more you grow. The more you pay attention to detail and the less you assume that you know everything, the more humility you bring to yourself, the more successful you will be. Okay? And remember, you can't learn everything in 2 hours. It takes time. Okay? Rome was not built in a day. You all understand that? The Great Wall of China took I don't know how many years to build. Okay? So please, guys, keep on studying. Remember, it's your future. And I'm here to help you. Whatever you need, let me know. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. From Wally Rauda here in Singapore, from my co-host, Mr. Amala, good night and God bless you all. Good night, everyone.